Won't you tell before you leave me,
leaving me,
the things I said that were so wrong,
so wrong.
So I'll know better for next time,
for the next time. Don't
not to do you no more harm.
Don't do no harm.
Hi, this is Steve Markeen. This tutorial is about arranging for vocals. I hope you enjoyed the opening track. That's one of mine with me on all four voices. The funny thing about that recording of that track is one morning I woke up with a terrible cold and my voice consequently was very deep and bassy, and I ran down to the studio and got that bass part recorded, which I never would have been able to sing ordinarily. So making something good out of something bad. Anyway, let's talk about arranging for vocals. The document here that we're looking through for this tutorial is also in your resource handbook. And I'm going to start with this section. What are you actually trying to do with your arrangement? Why have you got backing vocals in? So just like our general guidelines for arranging for any type of section that we went through in our introduction video, you could be trying to create pads, accents. You could be doubling a line, which thickens out the sound and gives it a new texture. Unison is another word for doubling. Or you could be harmonizing a line, and that's called a parallel line, where you're following the contour of the main vocal but doing it in harmony. You could be providing counterpoint, and counterpoint is a secondary melody working at the same time as the first melody. That term derives from classical music. If you listen to Bach in particular, one of the great masters of counterpoint. So really you've got two melodies happening simultaneously of usually equal weight, although because one is higher than the other one, that will tend to stand out as the main vocal. You could be having a call and response type of work with the backing vocalists, and in that case you're using the space or the in between the phrases of the lead vocal line. You could be wanting to develop extra lyrics and do more of your storytelling with the help of your backing vocalists, and of course you could use any combination of all of these. So I'm going to start this tutorial by having listened to some wonderful examples of backing vocal arrangement. I'm going to start with this example, which is a song called Down So Low, performed by Linda Ronstadt. It was a cover of hers. And I'm going to play the intro, even though there's no backing vocals in there, because it just puts into context the power that happens when the vocals come in. It's a great example at the start of pads, where the backing vocalist section is basically the only chordal instrument that's really playing. There is a piano. Let's have a listen.
When you went away, I cried for so long, and I wanted you to stay, but that was all wrong. The pain you left behind has become part of me, and it's burned out where my love used to be. But it's not losing you that's got me down so low. I just can't find another man to take your place. Well, you know I love you, but that wasn't enough. We both fell apart when things got too tough, and I've learned how to give now, but what good will that do? touch me the way you used to do. And it's not losing you that's got me down so low. I just can't find another man to take your place, but I know your opinion of me.
So some beautiful examples in there of pads, and one thing to notice is the use of different vowel sounds, oohs, ms, and the way they change the sound of what the backing vocals are providing. Also some harmony singing of the main vocal line, or even just using single words of the main vocal line and launching off on the harmony version from there. You should listen to that recording because Linda absolutely rips it apart by the end. I apologise for a little twinkly sound in there. Something happened on my computer, some notification. Now we're going to have a listen to one of the great harmony vocal groups, Crosby, Stills and Nash. They came to prominence at Woodstock, I think was their second or first ever gig. I think one of the features of these three is all about the blend, the way the three voices come together, and it's really like one sound, even though three different people are performing it. And that's definitely something to be listening for within your performance as a backing vocalist, or providing backing vocals as a section, or if you're in the studio recording backing vocals, is how those sounds blending, and the articulation of every word. Where does it start, where does it finish, so that it's absolutely tight. So let's have a listen to them. This is called Woodstock.
Off the wind on this heading line of Arkansas, you got 80 feet of a water line, nicely making way in a noisy bar in Avalon. I had to call you on a midnight watch. I realized why twice you ran away. Come on, think about how many times I have fallen. The spirits are using me, Lord, your voice is calling. What heaven brought you and me cannot be forgotten. I have been around the world, looking for that woman girl. Love can endure, and you know it will. Yeah. When you see the Southern Cross.
So I got the song completely wrong. The song was Southern Cross, which is wasn't Woodstock at all. But anyway, there you go, Southern Cross. It's another great song. David Crosby, Graham Nash, Stephen Stills, Crosby, Stills and Nash, and Neil Young actually joined that group later on as well. Okay, so one of the points I'm going to make when we come back to the document is you have to be very aware of the writing you're doing for vocalists, because if you write them close harmonies or notes that are very difficult to pick out of what's come before or the chord that's playing, it's a really tough call to ask a vocalist to do that. But having said that, if you've got the right vocalist, if you've got someone with an incredible set of ears, then they can do it. And this guy, of course, if you haven't heard him before, he's incredible at everything. But have a listen to his vocal arrangement, very sophisticated harmonizing.
Everybody
Everybody's got a thing, but some don't know how to handle it. Always reaching out in vain, just taking the things not worth having. Don't you worry about a thing. Don't you worry about a thing, baby. 'Cause I'll be standing on the side when you check it out. Say a start of life's a drag, and that you must go other places. Just don't you feel too bad when you get fooled by smiling faces. Don't you worry about a thing. Don't you worry about a thing, baby. 'Cause I'll be standing on the side when you check it out. And you get off your trip. Don't you worry about a thing. Don't you worry about a thing. Don't you worry about it.
So it's very technical and it's very cerebral, but there really is some amazing harmonies in amongst it, and a great ability to pitch any note, really. Now the last one I'm going to play is just here for a bit of fun, but it serves the purpose of demonstrating when the backing vocalists are furthering the story, and it's also working with a bit of call response, plus there's some pads going on and things like this. So welcome to Yoda performing My Stick.
I kiss my stick, you can't pick up my stick, keep your mitts off my stick. I disappear for years, then reappear right here to cheer about my cool stick. When I was a little bitty kid, I had not yet found my mighty stick, man I didn't. I could break your stick, it's just my brain. My stick? I could make you wish you could feel pain. My stick, my stick, my stick, my stick is better than bacon. You can't touch my stick. I don't want your stick. Yeah, you want my stick. It's just a stick. It's my big boy stick. On a bag of venom, and I wish I really, really, really didn't. Nobody has a good reason to own a bag of venom. Poke on my wrist sometimes 'cause I like how it hurts. Everybody can agree that stickers are the worst. I kiss my stick, it's my stick. You can't pick up my stick, keep your mitts off my stick.
So I hope you enjoyed Yoda's performance of My Stick, and the backing vocalists work with call and response, answering the lead vocal lyrics with extra lyrics to add to the story and add to the humour, as well as some of the counterpoint and pad work done by those vocalists as well. So we're going to come back to our document now and just look at a few of the technicals around arranging for vocals. So the first one is be aware of the ranges of your singers. So you, like any instrument you write for, you need to be aware of the range of the singer. Now, if you're working with your peers, you need to understand what's the range of their voices and get them placed in the best part for their voice. Not only watching for notes that are too high for their registers, but also notes that they might be able to reach, but there's not a great tonality attached to them. And another thing that happens with the voice is the crossover between chest voice and head voice, and that can be quite a difficult range for the singers to work in. Be aware of the tonal qualities, the tonality of your singers. And what I find really interesting about this is there's some singers where I find their tone not that pleasing if I hear it in a solo context, but fantastic blenders, and that is a real quality that you should treasure if you have that as a singer, your ability to blend or create a really interesting sound within a blend. So be prepared to swap some voices around, or if you are a backing vocalist or you're part of an ensemble, try swapping sounds around, or if you're working in a range that you're not that happy or comfortable in, see if there's another possibility of swapping your part with someone else. As an arranger, and again this applies to any sort of section work, but think of the overall dynamics of the piece when you're going to bring backing vocals in, because you're going to get a huge lift out of introducing extra vocal elements or any extra section elements. So is that the appropriate place in your song to bring that lift in? When you're looking to write or arrange lines for vocalists, again, refer to the material that's already in the composition, the melodic lines or ostinatos or other elements that are in there, to see if you can get any inspiration to work with those lines either through repetition or variation. And that also reinforces the continuity in the song, that those elements are being repeated in interesting ways. Of course, you also have the option of taking vocal lines and reinforcing them either through doubling or harmonizing. Tight or close harmonies versus spread out. By tight harmonies or close harmonies, we mean where the notes are close together. So you just play the first, third, and fifth of the chord, or assign those to your vocalists, and they're right in that cluster, only a third away and a fifth away. Or could I spread them out in a more interesting way? If I do spread them out, I get a more expansive sound, but as we talked about in the introduction to arranging video, I also am risking losing the blend quality of the sound if those voices are too spread out. As I've also mentioned within this lecture, tight harmonies can be very hard to pitch unless you're Jacob Collier, so be aware of what you're writing, particularly intervals of a second or dissonant harmonies. I'll add to that by saying if you're looking to write an extended note on a chord for your backing vocalist, but that's not being supported by the harmony instruments, that can also be a pretty tough call. When writing pads, look for small voice movements internally when doing the pads. So again, this was mentioned in the introduction to arranging. It was also mentioned in a previous lecture of looking at what is the actual voice movement when I go from, say, C chord to an F chord. If I've got one of my voices on the note C, well, the note C is common to both the C chord and the F chord, so that vocalist could just hold that note. It's going to create a very smooth transition. If I have a vocalist with the note E on the C chord, they can just move a semitone to the F, and then they're playing the F chord. And again, these very small movements will mean that we're not attracting attention to the backing vocalist section, because there's no strong melodic shifts there. There's no big interval leaps happening from those vocalists. A good trick, if you do have to execute a leap because of the way the voices are panning out, is to maybe look for a passing note in there that you can get from one note to the other in a step fashion. When you're arranging for your vocalists and you have them singing at the same time as a lead vocal is going on, be particularly aware of the high part of the arrangement, and this would apply again to any type of arrangement. The highest voice ear is always attracted to, and picks out the highest voice in any chord, and so we want to make sure that that is supporting the main vocals and not taking attention away from that. And particularly important not to make the lead vocalist's job hard to sing. Again, a good arrangement tip in general, if there is quite a busy lead line or vocal line going on, that's a good opportunity to put pads in, because you're not going to get in the way of the articulation of the main vocal or create rhythmic confusion. When there are spaces, you could look at trying more punctuated phrases. Also, you can work with that when the lead vocal is holding on. Now, it's a bit of a statement of the obvious for anybody who sings, but you can't physically actually hold on to any consonant sound for any type of duration. About the only ones that you can hold on to are and S, but S is not a great backing vocalist sound unless you're singing about snakes. So you'll be working with vowel sounds for your extended notes. Ah, he, ah, and they each have a different quality, and they each make the singer resonate in a different way. So you should be aware of those sound qualities, and it's often a good tip to listen to what lyric note is happening and bounce off that note and extend that through. It lets that vocal blend in a little bit better and support the main vocal better. So backing vocals with a lead vocal, be aware of clashing vocal sounds or words. If you've got pads or counterpoint. And a good analogy here is, what does it feel like if you're in a room and 10 people are talking at the same time? It's chaos. So we want to be really aware of supporting a main vocal, or if we are writing in counterpoint, that where they're rhythmically meeting and working with the gaps in each other's phrasing is in a very complementary way, not in a conflicting way. And as we saw with My Stick, lyrics can add to the backing vocals or add to the message or the storytelling content of the song. You can also hear that in the recording of mine. Now there's a section on the book on producing vocal recordings. That's about what to listen for in the studio while you're recording. So I'm going to skip that for now, but I will just have a look at this part. When doubling or harmonizing vocal lines, pay attention to the accuracy in matching the phrasings or timings, which is to say the start and the end of the words of the lead vocal. Hard consonants in particular can cause problems. That's t, so if I've got one singer singing a t and another one just a little bit late, ends up sounding like t, it gets very messy. So that's something we're listening to. And if you are a backing vocalist, that's something you need to be very, very aware of. Also, the end of the words are crucial, particularly if you're holding on to a sound for a length of time and then coming off it. It really sounds so much better when everybody comes off that together or fades out in a really unified way. Okay, so the next part of the document is it's more of the technical part of writing for your various voices, and it talks about the ranges of the different types of voices. So in the female voice, you have the soprano, the highest one, and the alto. In the male voice, you have the tenor, the baritone, and the bass. I'm going to move over to this, which I think is probably the most relevant, the amateur range. What can you expect to write for? So if you've got a soprano, you should write within that range, C4 to A5, which is not a huge range. It's only an octave and a half plus a bit, octave and a sixth to be specific. So again, octave and a sixth, octave and a sixth. But of course, if you are working with a vocalist and you know their range and you know they can comfortably hit a note outside that range, then feel free to write for that. Also, though, be aware of that thing I talked about before, where the texture of the voice changes depending on what part of the range they're using and whether they're in chest voice to produce that note, or the crossover part of their range, or their head voice. So that's going to change the blend. This stuff here, you don't really need to know terms like coloratura, lyric, dramatic, and these ranges unless you're writing for opera or classical. Similarly with instrument, when you write a soprano part, you write it in treble and treble. For tenor, baritone and bass, you write them basically in bass clef. Now the difference here between open score and short score, if we look down the page, an open score has, this would be soprano, alto, tenor, baritone. And you can see there that the tenor is written in a treble clef. But in a short score or condensed score, the soprano and alto sit in the treble clef and the tenor and bass sit in the bass clef. So that wraps up this tutorial on arranging for vocals. And I think one of the great things about studying at TAFE is we often have a lot of great voices around us, male and female, so do take advantage of that talent around you and be prepared to experiment, and also be prepared to ask the vocalists what works for them and what doesn't work for them. Particularly if you're not a singer, you often don't realize some of the restrictions around what it takes to produce vocal notes. So be prepared to take that feedback as well. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you for the next tutorial.
Listen closely while I I'll tell you how I hate to see you go. Whoa, whoa, don't go. To know there's
no one loves me.
Now you've left me on my own.